All right, welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Happy holidays to everyone. We've got the latest update, 2020.48.25, which is the much anticipated holiday update that some were very impressed with and some were a little bit disappointed with. Let's get into it. All right, we got the latest update, 2020.48.25. Okay, before we jump in and dive in, I just want to say really quickly, if you appreciate these videos, if you like the videos, if you like the perspective that we provide, consider liking the video, but also consider subscribing. We'd really appreciate it. All right, so the latest updates bring a whole host of new features, and the first and foremost thing is the new update to the release notes, which is great. Release note improvements. It's going to now show you in more detail what the release notes are. It's going to give you the ability to jump to individual features of the release notes, and it's also going to allow you to be able to see the history of the release notes. This is something that we have been asking for, and probably 1,000 other Tesla owners have been asking for a while. If you are new to Tesla within the last 2 years, this is probably not a big deal for you. But if you're anywhere older, an OG of the Tesla community like ourselves, you probably understand that seeing a single release note with just no context of how it compares to previous release notes is pretty infuriating to see what's changed, to see what's different. So they've looked to address that right now, right here with the latest update, where they're now giving you the ability to see previous release notes. As you see here, here's 2020.48.25. Here's 2020.48. Here's 2020.44. So you're able to see and scroll all the way back and see the history of the release notes to see exactly what's changed, what's different, what new features have been added. And this is great on Tesla's part because it allows you to really see the impact of over-the-air software updates to be able to show how many features have been addressed over time. So this is pretty cool. What I would like them to actually do with this is actually put the date next to it so you can actually see when it was updated or when the update was released. That would also give it some better context. All right, but in the meantime, that's the latest and greatest. No longer do you have the Tesla T up here to access the release notes. You have to access the release notes by going into here. If you're a Model 3, Model Y, same concept, go into the menu, go into software. Now, a little bit of a bug here. When you go in here, if you actually have the release notes up and you press release notes, it actually doesn't do anything. It should just close this. But Tesla, hopefully you're looking, hopefully you're watching and listening, and you can make adjustments accordingly. All right, so that's the first thing. Pretty cool update. Very, very much improved over the previous experience of just showing a single set of release notes with no context. All right. The next thing they've added is they've added a couple of games here. All right. So we talk about the Battle of Polytopia. We talk about Car Quest, a new adventure here, as well as Solitaire. Right. So that's pretty cool. One of the other things I noticed right now as I'm scrolling through here is that I wish they would put the picture underneath the actual title and blurb. That sort of frames it a little bit better. So as you see here, as I jump around here, the Battle of Polytopia, the image is above it. It's not below it. If it was below it, let's just imagine that this was the image for Battle of Polytopia. It frames it a lot better in that regard, as opposed to showing the image and then you have no context. You have to read about what that image means. So you want to have the title, the blurb, and then the body of the content should be the actual image. Again, frames it nicer and allows you to be able to jump around so that this becomes the top of the page. And now you see a nice understanding of the top of this really is Cat Quest and then the image below it. So just my personal preference from a UI perspective. Many designers and UI designers might also agree as well, but that's kind of where we are. All right. We also have driving visualization improvements. So as we all know, Tesla's actively testing full self-driving capabilities. I'm not going to rant on that right now. We'll talk about that in another video. But in the process of doing that, they're also trying out new UI elements in anticipation of a wider release for full self-driving, right? And so what they're doing is they're adjusting the UI to accommodate for this instrument panel, instrument cluster, whatever you want to call it, or in the Model 3 or Model Y, the touch screen or the driving elements of the driving screen on the Model 3 and Model Y, to accommodate for more space for the visualization for full self-driving. And as a result of this, it says the driving visualization improvements, the instrument cluster has been refreshed autopilot set speed, autopilot availability, and detected set speeds are now displayed next to the driving speed. Additionally, select items have been slightly moved, but will continue to look and behave the same. Again, that's in anticipation of releasing full self-driving. And for this UI, for this particular UI here, to be as open as possible, to show as much as possible for full self-driving. All right, so it looks like it has the speed in the middle as it was before, but now it puts the autopilot and the set speed to the left, and then the speed limit now also to the right. Before it was down to the bottom. Okay, so it kind of streamlines it to give it one unified line, and then here it's going to be one unified line at the top, and then I believe as they continue to roll it out, this will move to the bottom for actual full self-driving visualization. So trying to streamline things as much as possible, create as much real estate here and on the Model 3 and Model Y screens as well to show as much as possible. So that's pretty cool in theory. We'll see how it pans out when we actually get the full self-driving visualization. All right. In addition to that, we also have scheduled departure, which is improved from before. Previously, scheduled departure only happened when you had your car plugged in at home. You have it plugged in, you schedule a time for it to be ready by, or a time that you would like to start charging, and that would be your scheduled departure. This one says, hey, scheduled departure can now precondition your battery and cabin when your car is unplugged. To account for different utility rates and plans, you can now also set the time when your off-peak rates end to save charging costs. Okay, so again, just giving you more flexibility to be able to use scheduled departure. I'm not sure that they fixed the issue with scheduled departure from before, where basically you set a time anywhere past, I guess, 6 a.m., and it doesn't matter. It's still going to charge with the focus of having 6 a.m. being charged by 6 a.m. in mind. So if you set, I want to leave by 10 o'clock, it's still going to charge by 6 a.m. and stop charging past then. So hopefully they fix that bug. We'll have to test it out to see for sure. But right now, it doesn't look like that's the case in terms of the release notes, in terms of what they've addressed. All right. Next, we talk about Supercharger display improvements. Now, this is pretty cool, and this is, again, something that we've been asking for. Maybe they're listening, maybe they're not, probably not, but someone had to say it. But in any event, Supercharger display is improved. So now, instead of the pins on the map showing you effectively just a Supercharger icon, which is the red pin with the lightning bolt into it, it's now going to show you the supercharging pin with a number into it, indicating the number of available stalls at that location. Much easier to use. Prior to this, it was the pin with the lightning bolt, and then it had these little dots that represented the open or occupied stalls at the charger, which is really hard to read at a glance and really hard to read when you're actively driving or doing something like that. So let's take a look at that really quick. As I click here and see superchargers, I see the nearest superchargers near me. And on the map, again, the pins are now showing you the numbers of available stalls, which is really important, especially on the go. So you can choose, hey, 7 stalls available, 8 stalls. I don't need to know how many stalls in total. I only need to know how many available stalls to be able to make a decision as to which one I want to go to. Obviously, keeping in mind that there may be a buffer to say, hey, if there's 7 here, but it's X amount of miles away, it's probably going to be, okay for me to go there. But if there's 2 or 1 available here, I'm probably not going to go to that one because by the time I get there, someone else could be occupying those. So again, informed decisions, being able to act on the move, on the go, and quickly look at the screen to be able to make a decision. So that's pretty cool on Tesla's end to be able to include that. Jumping back into the release notes, it does take a little bit of time to load. Again, just thinking about the legacy information that it's including in terms of all the release notes, which makes it load a little bit slower. But I'm happy to wait if it's going to give me lots of information that I'd like to see. All right, so we were Supercharger display improvements. Now we talk about vehicle information. So now, again, just denoting that the Tesla T that you used to press here to bring up those release notes and additional vehicle information has now been removed. Now, I think and I suspect that the reason that they removed that is in the guise of unifying the UI. Obviously, if you keep that T there for the Model 3 and Model Y screens, you're going to lose, you're not going to be able to create as much real estate when you expand that driving visualization for full self-driving. And then again, just to be consistent, they don't want to keep it for the Model S and X. So Model S and X, I don't think the T being there has any impact on the visualization because we have 2 screens that we can display visual information on. So I think this is just in the vein of unifying the UIs so that it's consistent through and through. And so if you don't have a T here, you don't have a T on the Model 3 and Model Y, and it's just a consistent experience. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, I'm going to take this for a drive because I want to show you what the visualization on the instrument cluster looks like in terms of the fonts. As you can see right here, the fonts are actually a little bit smaller, but I'm going to take it for a quick drive, a quick spin, just so you can see it in action, what the car looks like, how it's a little bit smaller. Again, all in the anticipation of releasing full self-driving functionality and maximizing the real estate here to show you as much of what the car is seeing in this instrument panel. All right, guys, just want to take you on a quick drive to show you what the driving visualization looks like, to show you again how the indicators have moved and shifted, how the speed limit again is now up at the top right now, but then also how small the font is. The font has gone down a little bit, so it's a little bit tiny to read. Again, just in comparison to the previous update that you had, this is a little bit jarring just to get in the car. The car is also a little bit smaller. They did that a couple of, maybe several releases ago. They've changed the size of the car, and that wasn't a good look as well. And again, just for Tesla, shout out to Tesla. But Tesla, if you're looking and you're watching, this car visualization isn't as important when you're not on autopilot and you're not on full self-driving. So trying to make real estate for full self-driving here in this context when I'm actually driving the car isn't as important, isn't that much of a big of a deal. All right, so again, taking a look at the car, this is what it looks like driving as is. The car is at its biggest right now. You see the indicators for the proximity sensors have changed. They're a little bit more bold, a little bit bigger. And then when the car actually gets into the zoomed out mode, which is right now, it's pretty tiny. It is really, really tiny. To give an old school reference, if this was a standard sort of Matchbox type of car, the car now is turned into a micro machine. Shout out to those who know what that reference is. It's turned into a micro machine. So it's a little bit small, hard to see where it is. But again, I know that they're making space because they want to show as much as possible for full self-driving. All right. But again, if I'm not in autopilot, if I'm not in full self-driving, it's not as important to me that the car show all that information. So I would expect it to just stay the same. I would prefer the car to be as big as possible so I can see what the proximity sensors are picking up, see if I'm in my lane line when I'm driving manually. And then if I engage autopilot, then you can zoom out to this level perhaps. Okay, or if I engage full self-driving, then you can zoom out to that level, show that level of detail, and zoom out and show as much as possible. But again, if I'm driving, I really don't need to see all of that. So if I can just keep it at this view or a little bit bigger, that's most beneficial to someone driving manually, because again, they don't need to see everything. They just need to see what their exact lane is doing. Is the car in the lane? Is the car picking up things on the proximity sensors or not? Okay, just wanted to let that warning go off just to see if that's changed any bit, but it seems to be the same. But again, what you see now also is you see the blue D for drive, meaning indicating on autopilot. Again, unification of the UI. That's what the Model 3 and Model Y are doing, and specifically for full self-driving and the anticipation of full self-driving. Now Model S and X are doing that as well. Prior to this update, even when on autopilot, it would still, that D would still be white as opposed to blue. So now it's blue to indicate redundant indicators that you are on autopilot. And again, the autopilot icon, the max speed for autopilot are all a little bit smaller. And then the speed limit is now moved to the right of the speed that you're actually going. The warnings, the notifications, those are all still the same. Nothing's changed in that regard. The battery icon is smaller. The font for the battery percentage is smaller as well. Time, temperature are all smaller. Again, in anticipation for that. So my understanding is that for the full self-driving capabilities, what they're going to do is they're going to basically remove all of the additional menu items here. I'll just give you an example of what that might look like here. And they're going to remove this one here. Big bump coming up. And then effectively, they're going to fill in the sides with all the full self-driving visualization. And then I've even seen some screenshots or some videos of them taking this at the top and moving it down to the bottom to, again, give you as much real estate. I still think that's a bad idea. I think they should leave the speedometer at the top just because it's accessible and visible to everyone. When you put it at the bottom, depending on your seating configuration and where the steering wheel is, you could actually get cut off by the steering wheel and not be able to see it. So I think they should keep it consistent so you always know where to look. It's muscle memory just to know where it is. All right, so let's get back, let's head back. Let's take a look at the other release notes that we did not get for our vehicle configuration and location. All right, so back in the car, just taking a look at our good folks at Tesla Scope. No, we're not sponsored by them, but they have a pretty good site. We definitely like the breadth of knowledge that they have in terms of accumulating all the release notes from different around the country. So we prefer them. There's also Teslafy as well. Shout out to them as well. But Tesla Scope is sort of our preferred in terms of the visual, in terms of the UI. So this is going to show us, again, what's happening in this particular release for features that we don't have, that other people have based on their car and their configuration. Okay, so one of the biggest ones is obviously this BoomBox feature, which leverages the pedestrian speakers, the speakers that are external to the car that can produce audio outside of the car, specifically in reverse right now as it's active on most Model 3s and Model Ys. But this seems to be exclusive to Model 3s and Model Ys. I'm not aware of any, maybe the 2021 Model S and Model Xs that have that pedestrian speaker. But I hear Elon is thinking about doing a retrofit for the speaker potentially. Okay, but right now, Model 3, Model Y, if you have that, you're going to have this BoomBox feature. And it says, turn your car into a BoomBox and entertain a crowd with your media player when you're in park. You can also customize the sound of your car makes when you press the horn, drive the car, or when your car is moving with summon engaged. Select an option from the drop-down menu to insert your own USB, and you can put your own custom sound in here. So again, that's pretty cool. Customization inside of Tesla is always a welcome feature. So this is, again, allowing you to be able to play your speakers, play your media outside your car so others can hear it. I can see how that can get annoying depending on where you are. Kind of a flashback to the 80s and 90s when people used to have actual boom boxes and play them loud in public places or have their car blasting music pretty loud with the windows down. So I think this is reminiscent to that. So we'll see what happens with supercharging culture if this becomes a thing or becomes an annoyance over time, but we'll see. Okay, but again, being able to put the USB drive in, be able to have your own sounds, your own audio when you blow your horn, that's pretty cool as well. Just giving you some customization there. So that's cool. If you have that, definitely let us know in the comments what you think about it. Is it fun? Is it annoying? Etc. What we also have here are the emissions testing mode improvement. Okay, so this is just basically taking that emissions testing game or that prank, if you will, Easter egg, that you have inside the car. And again, now you can play this now outside the car. So instead of farting just inside the car, your farts can actually happen outside the car. Pretty fun, tongue-in-cheek type of action. Not really useful, but again, fun for kids, fun for people who like to play pranks and jokes and who find that type of thing entertaining. Again, leave us your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think. And then I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the updates that we didn't get based on location and based on configuration. Everything else is pretty consistent. Again, the goal here and the word on the Tesla streets, that is that there were more updates that were supposed to be in this update. They got delays. So this pretty much is a holiday update, part 1 of 2, where they split it. Obviously, everyone is waiting for full self-driving capabilities to be ready or for them to widen the beta, so to speak. Hopefully they'll be able to do that. But this is what we have so far. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like this update? Did you get it yet? Are you still waiting? Obviously, it's going to show us a lot of people who are still waiting for Wi-Fi to install or download the update. And then those who are installing, those who have downloaded the update but are ready to install, and then those who are downloading. So again, lots of great information from Tesla Scope. Shout out to them. And check them out on Twitter as well at Tesla Scope. All right, again, not paid, not sponsored, just shouting out some good folks in the Tesla community as we always do. In the meantime, enjoy your day, enjoy your Tesla. We'll catch you in the next video.